All right, we're going to go into volume 2 of the Ruger ARX ammunition. We saw fragmentation upon impact on targets at about 6 yards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to eliminate any of that issue. And a lot of people thought maybe it was my gun being out of time, and I inspected it, and I'm going to show that I don't think it is out of time. But just to be double sure, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run some of these ARX rounds through the 686 in single action from about 10 yards. That way we know for sure we're in full lockup. We know for sure we're in time. It's a new gun. And from 10 yards we should be able to see any fragmentation of it happening. And I'll shoot a few more through the snub nose revolver just to be extra sure. Another thing I wanted to point out was just a little bit of firearm safety. Now, I am generally pretty safe, but I'm looking at something right now, and I pretty much know how this whole thing went down with the impact bullet on my head. And if you see here, it's not too bad. It's really not too bad. Possibly what happened, because the way I'm wearing my hat, is that probably part of the bullet hit my hat and a little bit, and the other part just kind of clipped right here. But what I saw in the footage when I reviewed it is I was standing about here, and I was down right here, and I saw the bullet go this way off of my head, and I'm not able to see it down there. However, there is something very interesting you gotta see here. You know, this is where I would have hit that piece of wood, and it deflected off the side a little bit. Now we go up here, and you know, generally this isn't an issue here, but there is a tree that's slightly off to the left. And what do we got there slightly off to the left? So that 2x4 hitting a little bit to the left slowed that bullet down just enough and pushed it off just enough to the left that we got that impact on that tree. You know, and this wasn't really a thing, because when I look through here, you know, you see one tree over there and one tree over there that's further out that's bigger. You know, generally I thought, well, everything's fine, but as we can see, that tree is too close, and it's too much in line with my table. So I guess it's a fail on part of my own, you know, firearm safety code here. But generally when I shoot the water jugs, it just goes straight in. I catch them, or if it goes through, it goes straight through. So I'm going to have to reposition this table and be careful from here on out. But maybe I'll find that projectile once the ice thaws out. I'd like to take a look at it, but we can definitely see that's what happened. That's where it hit. There's just no doubt in my mind, because that is you know, this happened 2 days ago, and that's pretty fresh bark to have been. Plus, I never shot this tree, so. So let's get started with the Ruger ARX test through the 4-inch barrel from 10 yards and see if we got any fragmentation, and we'll see if the snub nose revolver how that does as well. I'm going to load this revolver here. Now the thing I did is I researched a lot about the timing of this gun, and we don't see any issues with the forcing cone, anything that would indicate off timing. But apparently with these newer Smith & Wesson revolvers, you see there's a little bit of a wobble right there. And that's because the MIM parts don't fit quite the way that they normally would in the old style revolvers. So when you check for lockup on something like this, you have to put empties in it, because that will stabilize the extractor star correctly. And when I put those in there, those empty brass, you know, we don't have that wobble. So that will make a difference on the ratchet, turning it appropriately. So I'm going to show you here, and you'll hear the lockup before it goes. I'm not going to put any pressure on the cylinder itself, though. It locked up, so it's locked up. Locked up. That one locked up already. That one locked up. That one locked up. So we were locking up long before the hammer drops. I'll put a little bit of thumb pressure on here. And when I do that is the moment the hammer drops, it locks it. So it's kind of simultaneous. I mean, it's not, once it does that, it's not, you know, it's locked up. I mean, we're not out of time, I know that much. There's just nothing to indicate it being out of time, and you know, the lockup's very tight. Timing seems to be fine. So let's go back from 10 yards and shoot some of those ARXs through the 686 and see if we got any more fragmentation of projectile. Alright, I got 22 rounds left to throw at the target. That should be sufficient to get some data. I measured out the distance. I'm actually 14 yards from where I'm going to be shooting, as confirmed by my high-tech distance measuring device. So let's load up a few rounds of this ARX and the 686, and I'm going to go single action, and we're going to see how these shoot at 14 yards. See if we get any bullet fragmentation or anything of that nature with the Ruger ARX. So. We only have 6 holes. This one's a little jagged, but I don't necessarily know if that means anything. I'll fire a few more, and then we'll switch on to the 342 and see if that does the same thing. I only see 12 holes, so let's go back with the 342, see if it fragments in that. I'm going to put my point of aim right on that dot on the 342 mark, and I'm going to make sure that this locks up before each shot, so I'm going to listen for the little click, and then I'm going to set it off and see, let's see what happens. Not able to hear the little click, so I'm gonna keep launching them off. I just don't see anything that would indicate that it should be doing that. I don't see anything with this revolver that indicates timing issues. I really don't know. The only thing I can think is that maybe, just maybe, the bore is tighter than average. I really don't know what to think other than that. I'm gonna shoot. I'll shoot this right here with the 686 one more time, just to confirm they're not fragmenting in the 686. They're fragmenting in this, and I know my timing's right. I'll do a nice slow double action with the 686, and we'll see how that does. All right, take a look. 2 here, 3, 4, 5. So there's no fragmentation. There's no fragmentation with the 686. there is with the 342. I don't have an explanation for it, to be honest. And let's say even if that timing was off by the slightest amount, is it really a good thing that your ammunition would fragment if your gun is slightly off? I don't think mine is, but that's just what I'm getting. So in conclusion, I don't know what to tell you about the ARX ammunition out of this particular gun here. They did not fragment at 14 yards. They did not fragment out of this 686, but they did out of this. I really couldn't tell you what the issue is with this. I don't think that this gun is out of time. It does shoot a little funny, but there's no telltale signs of anything as far as timing issues. It looks, everything about, I mean, every side of the forcing cone, it's even. It's even all the way around it. There's no particular wear on one side or the other. So I don't know if it's this particular gun where it's a lighter than average, and somehow the recoil force, or maybe the diameter of the bore is slightly off. I really couldn't tell you why it would fragment out of this gun. Other ammunition seems to do okay. So I don't have an answer other than it doesn't seem to fragment, and it seems to be fairly accurate out of the 686. But in this gun, I'm having issues. So that probably leaves more questions than answers, but that's what I'm getting today. That's the best I can do with what I have to work with. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.